Hey YouTube, this is Reading Reddit. Here to read you a couple workplace stories. Now the first one comes from our Tales from the Front Desk with user Eric Morgan. Now a few weeks back, we were completely booked. Our guest complained about the smell of weed coming from a room. Now I asked them which room they think it's coming out of, and they tell me. I go up to the room, knock on the door, and it's a group of like 8 or 9 people, black and Latin. I tell them someone reported the smell and asked if they had it. The room didn't smell strongly of it, but it's clear that they had at least been smoking before they entered the hotel. They assured me they didn't and left it at that. I can't ask to search the room and they were keeping quiet, so I apologized and left. About 10 minutes later, the same guest called down to complain, except this time he said, "I know you probably can't call the cops, but I can if you want." "No sir, I don't need you to call the cops on that guest. I'll check on them again." "I can do it, just let me know," he said. Honestly, this time I just do a walk by the room. I still can't smell anything, and in my hotel you can smell smoke almost as soon as you step off the elevator. So I go back down. I'm chilling watching Daredevil Season 3 when a guest walks by the lobby. "Do you need anything, sir?" "No, I'm just waiting on someone." I recognize his voice as the guest who'd been calling down. About 20 minutes go by. Daredevil's about to fight Bullseye for the first time. And one of my city's finest, whom I know because he's been here for all the other problems before, walks and says he got a call. That was me. This mother. I think there's someone smoking marijuana next to me, and the fellow isn't doing anything about it. The cops go up, speak to the guests I've already spoken to, and come back down. I ask them if they find anything. Of course they didn't. And if they need me to sign something, and they don't. And I apologize for the guests wasting their time. One of the things we have guests sign is a paper saying if they cause a disturbance to other guests, we reserve the right to ask them to leave. This includes loud noises, verbal or physical harassment, and basically anything that violates the safety or well-being of another guest. So I asked the officers to stick around for a minute, and I called the guest who had called them and informed him he has violated our disturbance policy and needs to leave. And of course he fights it, starts yelling at me over the phone and refuses to leave. So I asked the officers to accompany me up to the room, and together we walked this guy out my hotel. Should have just listened to me in the first place. Second story is from R. Talesfromthepizzaguy, from username is a cashier. So I'm working as a pizza maker at a tiny independent pizza shop in New Orleans, and the delivery driver is this 6'6" Lithuanian basketball player who's supposed to be on a basketball scholarship, but has had some troubles with the NCAA over a few exhibition games that he may have gotten paid for. So he's delivering pizza in a clapped out ghetto sled instead of going to college right now. We send him out on a run for 3 nearby deliveries, and after about 30 minutes of him being out, the customer from the third house calls to complain that their pizza hasn't arrived yet. So I call the first house and they're like, "Pizza came just fine." I call the second house and they say the pizza just arrived. So I figured he's had car problems and all. So I drive over to the second house and follow the logical route towards the third. As I'm almost there, I see this giant man running at a dead sprint down the middle of the road with the pizza bag held over his shoulder like a waiter. I pull up beside him and without stopping he yelled, "Must deliver pizza!" Turned the corner and ran up to the customer's house. When he got done, I found that his car had failed to start at the first house and he decided to run about 3 miles with several pizzas rather than screw around looking for a phone. Best delivery driver by far. Now, does this story remind anybody of that scene from SpongeBob where
Will you let go of that stupid pizza already?
I can't. It's for the customer.
Who cares about the customer?
I do.
Well, I don't.
Oh, Squidward.
Now the third story comes from user No Kitty That's My Pie, who's also posting from our Tales from the Front Desk. I work at a big brand name hotel in a beach town, and this summer our rates skyrocket to almost $300 a night, and we're usually sold out. Someone booked about 2 rooms for a long weekend and decided not to show or bother to call in to cancel. Our no-show policy is pretty standard, 1 night's cost for each room you booked. This gentleman was charged about $500 total for his 2 no-show rooms, and it sucks, and it's a lot of money, but it's 100% his fault. The gentleman called me a couple weeks later when he got his credit card bill. I explained to him our policy and that he wouldn't be getting a refund. He went off. "You don't know who you're messing with. I'm not paying you, idiot." Yada yada. Eventually, he just told me he was going to dispute it with his credit card company. "Sir, if you want to dispute the charge with the bank, you have every right to do that. I would not personally recommend it though. If this was a case of a stolen credit card, I would agree with you, but we have documentation showing you were informed of the no-show policy. However, if you wish to pass the issue along to the bank, I will gladly deal with them. When you dispute a charge, the bank will front you the money while they investigate. When he got the money from the bank right after he failed the dispute, he called me to gloat. He told me how stupid I was, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. What I don't think he understood is that the money is pretty much a loan under the assumption that his charges were actually fraudulent, which they weren't. I easily won the dispute, proving that he willfully did purchase the rooms, and he was informed of the no-show policy. Then the bank billed him back for the money they fronted him, and he called me again, lucky me. He told me that the bank was billing him and that I had to pay it.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
He said because it all started with my hotel, it was our responsibility to pay his bank bill. And at this point, I didn't even know what to say. I just said, no, have a good day, and hung up. And down the road, he ended up calling me again, saying that his credit card company was threatening to turn over his bill to collections if he didn't pay. And now he wanted us to pay $800 because of interest. I told him that his personal finances are his own business and to stop calling. I tried to warn him in the beginning. Now, the next story also comes from R Tales from the Pizza Guys, from user Beige PhD. So this one night, I have a delivery to a pretty rural area. A lot of my deliveries get to rural areas, so it's no big deal. But tonight it's drizzling and especially dark, so I'm having trouble finding the address of the house that I'm looking for. So I roll down the passenger window and use my really bright flashlight, pointing it at mailboxes, trees, posts, anything that somebody might have their address on at the end of their driveway. So I'm driving along like 5 miles an hour, pointing my flashlight when the beam catches a guy wearing a black hoodie at the end of an obviously long gravel road staring directly at me. More of a glare at me really, but whatever. Could have just been on the phone or something. But then it gets weirder. I finally get to the address I'm looking for and pull into the drive and hop out the car. That's when I get the sinking feeling. There's no cars, no house light, boarded up windows. And if you've ever been a delivery person, you know this is the time to get out of there because you're about to get robbed. Right as I'm about to jump in, throw the car reverse, and nope the mess out of there, I see a man walking across the empty field adjacent to the property towards me. Now, I'm a pretty burly, bearded dude, so I don't worry on a whole lot of deliveries, but this scared the shit out of me. When he gets closer, I see him very obviously tucking something into his waistband, and what I can only assume was a gun. He then says in a thick, menacing southern accent, "I thought you was the law." I guess because of how I was scanning the addresses. I meekly point to the car topper and the pizza in my hand, and he says in the nicest voice you've ever heard, "Oh great, thank you so much, have a great night." Pays me and then proceeds to walk back through the open field in a direction of no buildings in the rain with his pizza. For the rest of the shift, I couldn't stop whispering, what the f***? The strangest thing that has ever happened to me. One last story from R Tales from the Pizza Guy from user RoarkUB1. So I work at a Pizza Hut as a delivery driver, and we have this one customer that everyone hates to go to because he always pays an exact change. No tip, ever. If the driver doesn't have the exact change he wants, he will call the store and demand the driver brings him back his 50 cents. He has done this multiple times. Let me mention that Greg is also very well off. He lives in a $500,000 house and drives a $50,000 truck. This happened to be during a blizzard, of course. And Greg orders a pizza, nothing special, but his total was $15.11. And I draw the short straw and have to take it to him. By the way, there's 3 inches of snow or so and it's still snowing. I get to his house and ring the bell. At this point, I take his pizza out of the insulated bag. See, I wanted it cold, but everything turned out so much better than I had anticipated. He takes forever to get to the door, and when he finally does, he hands me $13 in cash and a handful of change. In the process, drops me a dime. I count up everything and I have $15.01, 10 cents short. At first, he asked if I can just cover it for him, and I said, no, I'm not gonna pay 10 cents out of pocket for your pizza. If it were any other customer, I probably would have just done it. It's only 10 cents, but not for Greg. He starts blaming me for dropping it when he dropped it. And again, I say no, and that he's gonna have to find the dime or get another. At this point, the pizza is already getting cold as it was well below freezing out there. He starts kicking around the snow on his porch looking for the dime. I spotted the dime right away, but kept quiet. All the while, he's muttering about how I dropped it and I should pay for it. I'm trying my best to hide the grin on my face at this point. About 3 to 5 minutes later, I'm starting to get cold and the pizza might as well have just came out the fridge. I tell him I'm timed on these orders, which I am, and that he should go inside and get the money. He, of course, claims that he has no money and starts about the sob story about him not having any money. So I give him back his money and leave. I told him that if he finds a dime, just to call the store and then we'll bring him back his pizza. I know he has money, so I just pull around the corner and call the store to tell my manager what happened. During the call, Greg calls the store saying he has his money. I get back to the house, pull the pizza out again, and go back to his door. He hands me all the money and I make sure to count it slowly. I asked him if he found it in the snow and he said, "No, I just got it from inside the house." Not the most dramatic story, but ultimately I was happy. He got the cold pizza and I got paid. He hasn't ordered since. Greg. Thanks for listening, YouTube. Hopefully this made your day go by a little quicker. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.